Ja, kommen wir zum letzten Talk des Abends schon. Aber wir machen es ja sowieso heute erst warm. Morgen geht es ja dann richtig weiter.
Ja.
Ne? Also insofern, der letzte Talk verspricht nochmal was ganz Besonderes, wie ich finde, weil ich kenne ihn. Ingo ist von Vodafone, ein Urgestein bei Vodafone, ein sehr cooler Typ. Und es ist... hat das Ganze auf Englisch vorgetragen, insofern ein bisschen was Internationales jetzt auch, passt ja auch zu so einem Konzern wie Vodafone. Ne? Insofern, also das kann man dann auch nochmal sich mit den Nicht-Deutschsprachlern gemeinsam anschauen. Wir freuen uns sehr drauf. Es geht um PIPping. Tatsächlich ein Spruch, der wohl etabliert wurde, kurz vor einem tragenden PI-Planning von einem Business Owner, glaube ich, der so fragen, so was sagt man jetzt eigentlich, ne? Weidmannsheil, das ist natürlich irgendwie ein bisschen doof. Also, und so hat sich PIPping etabliert. Und es geht darum, wie eben ein Vodafone ART dahin kam, das smoothest CPI-Planning ever zu bearbeiten.
Spannend, gell? Letztes Jahr hatten wir Telekom, dieses Jahr Vodafone. Mal gucken, wer nächstes Jahr kommt.
Also Ingo, take it away.
Good morning, afternoon, good night, everyone, depending on where you are listening from. I am happy that you want to join the roller coaster ride of my art over the past 12 months. My name is Ingo Schneider. I'm 51 years old. I'm married, no kids. Instead, I have a little petting zoo at home, so some cats, dogs, rabbits, and guinea pigs. I love mobile and PC gaming. I go wakeboarding 3 times a week, unless the lake is frozen. And I love to watch American football. I have been working for Vodafone since 1993 now, and I'm still loving it because in the past 28 years, I could always do what fit to my interest, and they changed quickly. So this is not self-evident. For the 2 years, I'm an RTE now, after I was 2 years a Scrum Master in several teams, and before that, I was a Lean Six Sigma Black Belt. You can ask questions at slido.com, hashtag happypip, throughout the presentation, and I will answer them afterwards. You can vote them up, and I will answer the most voted questions at the end. And when I send out the presentation later, I will answer all the questions that have at least 2 to 3 votes, so it doesn't get too much details, but all the most important questions I will answer in the presentation later. So what brought me here? This was the smoothest PIP ever, was a sentence some of my team members said in the last PIP in September 2021. And Peter was listening, Peter from Cybert Media was listening, and he wanted to know more about the whys. And we talked a bit. And while I was spontaneously reflecting what we did in the past, we thought some of the things we did in my art to ease our pain might be worth sharing. And since I was on the RTE summit, I know now that some RTE and arts and programs have the same or similar difficulties. Let me introduce the program and the art very briefly, so you may better understand our urges to change. Of course, with everything I tell you, I have to extremely simplify. When I tested my first presentation with all the must-know details, I ended up at 70 minutes. And you all know I don't have that much time, so I had to shorten a lot. One of the Cybert Media colleagues said it is called killing your darlings, and I can confirm that it really hurts. Nevertheless, I hope I can make the connections and actions clear enough for you. We are trying to build a new business support system for our 30 to 40 million customers and internal users in Germany. And our old solution is highly customized and more than 20 years old, and so are our business processes. So there is a big need that we do that. We already started in 2017. The first ideas was delivered earlier than 2017, of course, and we wanted to do it agile. It was the buzzword those days. Everybody wanted to work a new work style and becoming agile. And after a few experiments, we arrived at SAFe. We are working fully remote since March 2020 with more than 1,000 people from 18 companies in 11 countries. And the biggest part is in Germany, India, Israel, and UK. But also Brazilian, Caribbean Sea, and Latvia, they are also in there. That sounds great, but this not only means different time zones, but also different dialects, for example, in different strengths. And when we did on-site PIPs, this setup was more a logistic problem that we solved because we flew them all in and had really an on-site PIP with everyone from the program. But after COVID and the switch to remote sessions, it is issues with different network stabilities. For example, switching on and off cameras is not so well done in other countries, and a longer warm-up in meeting is also needed because you always have to get familiar to the different voices and intonations in that meeting, which is easier when you are on site and you can see the lips better. Alongside this goes the different cultural setups as well. Not only do we change our own company, where there's 500 people or 800 people, number is rising, that needs to change the 10,000 in the rest of Germany, but also we have to solve national and company cultural clashes with the other companies and vendors. And just a simple example, people in Israel do not work Fridays, but they do work on Sundays. And this does have implications on planning your ceremonies and your PIPs and stuff. But I can honestly say we did overcome most of this. There's no us and them mentality anymore. And all people are collaborating extremely well and are respecting each other. Just for instance, do we move the PIP sometimes for a couple of days due to national holidays in other countries to make it possible for them to take part as well? It also implies that the war in Israel or the pandemic situation in India, the Brexit, all of this suddenly matters to you because it's not the people in India, Israel, or UK that are affected, but it's your co-workers, your friends and their families. And this makes the world a lot smaller. And I really think it enriches our space of experience. Another thing is the German labor law. It plays a big role because agile work or any other close collaboration between two or more companies is not really supported at all. And this leads to some very, very painful workarounds sometimes, especially in communication flow and team setups. Also, it counters the things we try to achieve with the program because this close collaboration is one of the goals of our program, right? But the fines are high. And also you could go to prison for some legal violations. So everybody is extremely cautious about this. One of the biggest challenges, and please don't laugh now, we don't yet have a productive environment. So one of the basics of agile work, which is delivering software, is just not possible yet. We will have that in the next 2 to 3 months for most of the applications we are building, including a DevOps concept. But right now we don't have it, and we will have the first few friendly customers and users on the system by March 2022. Still, this is a big burden for us, especially RTEs and the teams, because right now it somehow feels like playing safe only and not being agile, right? Yeah, the program is set up. It started with an idea. It became a bit bigger. Then we split off the two arts and had one breeding art, which is where here the startup art, where the arts that were planned to have, that we wanted to have one day, but they were not really mature enough. But these art could grow there, and but art by art we split off, and now we have 6 arts, all on their own. My art is the lowest art, the fulfillment art. It's taking care of 2 main components, one which orchestrates the orders coming from the front ends, and one which provisions these orders to the network elements. Of course, this is much simplified. The real structure looks like this. We have many sub-projects, and there's also 9 teams missing. So it's really a very complex project. This is the project hierarchy view in Agile Hive, where you can see it very easily, but it's very hard to screenshot. This is why there's the 9 teams missing, right? But the overview is great. When I took over, we had 2 design teams, one for each of the components, and they were staffed with only Vodafone people, and 2 implementation or development teams, which were vendor-only teams, also one for each of the components. For several reasons, a bit more than a year ago, we changed the setup to 1 Vodafone design team for our service management with 3 subsequent vendor development teams. And we mixed 1 team for the network provisioning, design, development, test, Vodafone and vendor all in 1 team. In the beginning, they still struggled a bit and were still waterfalling, had teams in the team though, but it was a small step in the right direction for us. The program management team consists of 4 people. We have a special role here. It's very stable since more than a year. We have the special role, which is the ITM, the integration test manager. He cares about all the testing topics. And the other 3 are all a blessing for our art, and it's really a pleasure working for them. But yeah, me, the release train engineer, I'm the troublemaker here, right? I will let you know why later. We have actually a pretty standard setup of ceremonies. We have 2-week sprints. We used to have 3+1, so 3 real sprints and 1 innovation and planning sprint per increment. Some solution areas in that breeding art had their own cadence. Sprints started on different days. Some were even working with different sprint lengths. Still, let me pick out some special ceremonies here, although we had some other specialities. The special ones is the Scrum of Scrums, the PO Sync and the Inspect and Adapt. They had in common that we were having it in that big construct of that breeding art, that startup art. And this was really making it very, very big, and the tendency to not be interested in what the other people told us, right? The preparation for the PI planning was extraordinary because the development teams from the vendor had their own so-called pre-PIP, where they did the PIP for their implementation features up front, and we were just managing dependencies in the bigger PIP. And some of the vendor people did not even participate in the bigger real PIP, so to speak. And I don't say that to blame them. We are working very good together. It was what they thought they would help us the best to deliver high quality software, just to make clear what happened those days, right? In the artifacts, we are pretty much standard, except for 1 specialty here in the middle. It's in red because it really drives me crazy. It's the multi-art feature, the MAF. It's in the middle between solution and program level, so no one really feels responsible. Nobody knows how to really test or define it. No one feels responsible to move them through the Kanban because it's located in the solution Kanban, but the responsibility lies with the program level, and that's really strange, right? They have built-in dependencies and they screw up every reporting. We have multiple handovers, which create waiting times and increases delivery times, which is not too bad since we do not have a productive environment right now. But in the near future, this will cause even more unhappiness. I could talk about MAFs the entire day because it really touches me, and I really think this is one crucial part we have to fix. But let's focus on different topics today because this will take a while. This is only the biggest pains. We have plenty of them. Generally speaking, we could say, before each PIP, we had MAFs, here they are again, coming in very late, which led to horrible defined features. Teams had to figure out what was meant in the first day of the sprint, and we had many delays. We were not really predictable. Our feature refinements took ages, and the teams did not know what to expect in the PIP because they were coming in so late, and the POs could not explain the features very well to their teams. It was hard, and everyone was struggling, and everyone felt rushed to get the PI planning prepared. Right. So what did we do about it? Again, this is only a very condensed version of what we all did, but there was a big turning point. I think every art, project, program, whatever, there's always 1 or even more points in the history where you either break or make a huge step forward. In our case, I think we made a huge step forward, and it was after a milestone for the program was reached in March this year. The startup art, that breeding art, was becoming far too big. We had unsynchronized ceremonies, which led to a situation where we didn't have any free slots for other meetings. There is more meetings than the ceremonies, right? And we couldn't find the right time to organize it. And the PIPs were a huge effort. There was 400 people, over 400 people participating. Over 1,000 joined the big final plan review, and the numbers were constantly rising. And also, we were planning in waves. We had no real flow in creating artifacts, which features were not planned continuously, but from PIP to PIP to PIP, like a big sprint planning. So what we did is we changed the cadence from 3+1 to 5+1. And actually, this was a wish from the teams because they felt to be interrupted somehow in their flow. They had sprint 1, then sprint 2, it became habitual, and sprint 3, they were in the flow, and then, there's the IP sprint again, and we have to plan our PI planning, and they were really interrupted. And also the side effect was that it's harder to plan the entire PI, so you had to do some of the planning inside the PI so that you become a bit more continuous in your planning. What we also did is we synchronized all arts. So it freed up some calendar space because all the ceremonies were taking place at the same time. There was some more time slots available. They were filled up quickly though, but this is a usual problem, I think. But also the business owners and solution management, they had to decide suddenly where to go when all the system demos are at the same time. You can't attend everyone everywhere, right? But they found a way how to do this. Due to big problems in some other arts, we in fulfillment contributed by reducing one development team so another art could ramp up some people. We also wanted to change something for us. So we started many improvements. And again, the ones I show here are only in essence, right? Yeah, we went for mixed teams to reduce internal handovers and decrease the cycle time. It is also easier to cross-skill people, and I wanted to show this in an Agile Hive breakout view, but I don't have enough time left. But you can see the development from 14 inner art dependencies to only 2 there extremely well. This is a very good overview they provide. The new way of creating features gives us a better vision, better inclusion of the developers in design decisions, and fosters exchange and learning a lot, right? And it reduces the amount of artifacts in our funnel, which is still too many. But however, we reduced them from 100 artifacts to 70 by now, and the number is going down, which is a good thing because it makes you more flexible. But what comes after a change to solve problems? Exactly, new problems. So mixing the teams in fulfillment, here's where the hard time started, right? These 4 decisions like cadence change, synchronization, mixing teams, and changing the artifacts, they caused so much insecurity for everyone, no matter if PM, PO, team, or Scrum Master. Only the godlike RTE, so me, was supposed to have all the answers, but I didn't. Let's face it, there was more questions than answers, right? And when I say we changed to mixed teams, it's easily said, but teams struggled to find out what was expected by them in the new setup. Some roles mentioned they run out of work because there was no cross-skilling. And teams did not know what they were supposed to do with the new and not even the old artifacts in the new setup. The planning horizon was so huge, so you could not foresee what comes at the end, which did not help the team's confidence either. So to pivot without mercy, we were not prepared for the PIP at all. The PIP in March was probably the toughest PIP ever, when the last one, or the one before last one, was the smoothest one. So to ease the pain and let the team not alone with their despair, we decided to focus on improvements to clarify all the things in the first 2 to 4 sprints, leaving the features aside for a while. That helped the confidence a bit. The confidence vote at the end of the PI planning was still at an all-time low of 3.6 with many 2s. And the program level had more trust in the teams than they had in themselves, and therefore voted 4 or 5. Otherwise, it would have been even more disastrous, I think. Especially if you consider the close to zero ambition level when only focusing on improvement items, this is a very, very low value. The only objective was form your teams, right? And then a confidence vote of 3.6 is not very high. During the first PI, the teams, POs and Scrum Master did unbelievable great in figuring out, it was breathtaking in which speed they formed real teams and took over issues they had never done before. Even thinking of it in a retrospective makes me somehow excited and very proud. It was really great to watch. And the bad thing for me was I couldn't really help them, right? So they did that all by themselves. And I'm really, this was great teamwork. And so how to work with the new artifacts was one of the problems I mentioned. And I can only show you the biggest changes here, not all of them. What we did was we are doing weighted shortest job first with silent estimation instead of planning poker, which was a huge accelerator for our refinement sessions. And the agenda includes desired status changes as well. Also, we had definition of readies per Kanban state. So we exactly know what we have to define in the feature session when we want to move the feature from one Kanban state to the next one. And this focused our discussion to only the needed things, and it gives them teams the possibility to see a feature develop because it gets filled up with each session. And together with doing how we were taught to do, like using time boxes, it reduced the discussion significantly. And we discussed 4 to 5 features per session now instead of 2 in the earlier days. How to work with the new artifacts in the refinement session. Not all teams did them together, right? In the backlog refinement, sometimes it was a certain role in the team together with the PO that predefined the features. So doing refinements once a week with the entire team was a good thing. And there was workshops with walkthroughs. So they really took one feature and figured what they need to do and who would do it in which state of the Kanban. To make them familiar with the new setup, right? And then we created personas, which started with a fun exercise on program level. But all teams did it as well. And so we have 5 personas now that are more and more often used in the system demos. And we are testing using story mappings. We just started to do so. And we really hope this will be the next thing that will push us forward, right? As well in the team backlog refinements as in our feature refinement sessions. What you can see here is the amount of improvements on program level, and you can see they really are quite stable. You know, it's something between 1 and 7, but there's not much change. But on the next slide, there is a huge mountain here after March and April, where there was a lot of improvement items created, and it went down close to 0, but not 0, and it's rising again. But there you can see how many changes we really implemented. So what's the result? How does it look now? What we do have is we really have mixed teams now in the fulfillment art, only 4. There is one team which is only caring for the service ordering component, which is kind of component team, and one mixed team with an emphasis on the other component, but they more or less the other 3 of them can really tackle every feature we have. And maybe in the future we will have them all at the same. Let's see what the teams decide, and I will not do it without asking the teams because they should work with it, right? The product management is still stable, and so are the ceremonies. We have them all in our art, on art level only, so not in the breeding art or startup art level anymore. And the vendor pre-PIP could be eliminated as well. Yeah, the last PIP, right? Everything was smooth and dandy, like a walk in the park on a sunny spring day. But as you know, by your experience, I would guess, you're never done. So we still have a lot of current big struggles. And I think we will add improvement items, and we will keep on facing them and solving them and keep improving. If you ask me to remember one slide, please remember this one. All the decisions we made and the things resulting from this were not easy. We could have chosen to just reduce one development team, make some minor changes and adjustments, and only lose a bit of performance and go on with business as usual. But we as an art, we chose to have impact and make a change. And in the final plan review of the PI planning in March, I shared this belief with my team. I am convinced that going through hardship and through the struggles and feeling the pain of these decisions forge our future skills to become a great art. And boy, I can tell you, we did struggle and we did feel the pain big time. And my final words of this last PI planning, well, actually, it's not the last anymore because we had one 2 weeks ago. However, I almost shed a tear when I told them how proud I was that all the struggles and pain paid off finally, and we built a successful art together. Very slowly, we saw some success. The measures were going up. Our team setup became a role model for other arts, and the share of features and enablers compared to improvements was rising, and so was our predictability. But I hope I could make it very clear in the past 30 minutes, this did not just happen. Each single person in my art made it happen. Everyone contributed. And this is why I'm so grateful to be part of this, and hardly can express how overwhelming it feels that they trust in me. Although whatever I say usually means for them, they have to step out of their comfort zone and sometimes even into the panic zone, right? In the last PIP, we had a confidence vote of 4.1. And if you know engineers, you can't get much higher than that. This is why many said this was the smoothest PIP ever. Although I have to admit, in between, there was another PIP just 2 weeks ago where the confidence vote was 4.2. Although the PIP itself wasn't that smooth. It was a bit chaotic as well. But the teams did a great job figuring out and building a plan. So please give us feedback. It's just a 2-question survey, so I can improve and see what was good or bad for you, and maybe next time I'm doing better. You can just scan the QR code and will be directed to a small poll, and that would make me very, very happy. And let's stay in contact. I hope many of you take the chance to get in contact and share your ideas. I'm happy to add you on LinkedIn, and I'm always happy to discuss things about SAFe, about being an RTE, about Agile release trains, teams and stuff. And for the rest of the day, have fun, have some popcorn and kick ass.
Da sind wir. Und da ist der Ingo.
Danke, Ingo, für den Vortrag.
Ja, gern geschehen. Ich rede noch.
Ja, das ist in Ordnung. Ja, es gab auch schon doch einige Rückfragen auch zum smoothest PI Planning ever. Und erstmal vorab von Marian eine Information, dass MAF im Holländischen für strange oder crazy steht, falls du das ja nicht wusstest.
Das passt ja. Das passt, das ist wirklich crazy, was wir da treiben, ja.
Dann gibt es eine schöne Frage vom Manuel. Warum habt ihr mit einer 3+1 Kadenz angefangen bei so einem großen Art?
Ja, also ich glaube, das war gar nicht so eine echte Wahl am Anfang. Ne? Wir haben halt einfach mal angefangen und damals waren wir auch noch nicht so groß, als diese Entscheidung getroffen wurde. Wir sind dann sehr schnell gewachsen und mussten dann halt irgendwann, sind wir so riesig geworden und wie ich schon gesagt habe, die Teams fühlten sich auch total unterbrochen in ihrer Arbeit. Ne? Und dann sind wir halt geschwenkt auf 5+1, weil sie einfach mehr Zeit haben wollten, tatsächlich zu arbeiten. Das war halt eine der ersten Entscheidungen, die wir getroffen haben und da hatten wir alle noch überhaupt keine Ahnung. Und ja, das schien damals ganz gut. Wir wollten ja kurze Zyklen haben. Ja, haben wir gehabt. Mhm. Vielleicht kommen wir da sogar mal wieder hin. Das wäre ja so mein Wunsch eigentlich, ne? Dass wir dann trotzdem diese extrem kurzen Feedback-Schleifen haben und wieder wegkommen von den etwas längeren. Mal gucken, ob wir das schaffen oder ob das sinnvoll ist. Ja.
Ja, dann, ich glaube, also ich weiß aus den Vorgesprächen, dass das MAF dir so ein mittelmäßiges Gefühl gibt insofern. Aber es gibt die Frage, wie unterscheidet sich das denn von einer Capability, weil man die ja normalerweise dann eben über dem Feature sehen würde im Safe-Kontext. Vielleicht kannst du das wenigstens kurz nochmal, weil die Frage von Klaus gestellt wurde, ausführen.
Ja, diese Multi-Art-Features, die sind, ich die sind eigentlich erschaffen worden bei uns von unserem Vendor. Und es ging darum, dass wir Ende-zu-Ende Dinge abschließen, trotzdem innerhalb eines PIs. Und dafür hatten wir, Capabilities sind, glaube ich, so ähnlich. Ob sie sich jetzt genau davon unterscheiden, ich weiß es gar nicht. Wir haben damit halt nie gearbeitet. Ne? Bei uns war der Begriff Capabilities aber auch belegt. Also wir hatten die Capabilities schon in unserer Legacy-Welt und wir haben mit dem Begriff schon andere Dinge geregelt. Deshalb konnten wir den auch nicht nochmal verwenden. Ja? Vielleicht ist daraus auch ein kleines bisschen entstanden. Aber die Art, wie wir damit umgehen, dass das sozusagen ein Solution Epic ersetzt, das ist jetzt nicht so schön. Ne? Mhm. Als wir damit mit dem ganzen Kram angefangen haben, waren wir halt noch nicht so schlau, wie man jetzt diese Dinge treibt, gerade auf Solution-Ebene. Ne? Mhm. Auf Scrum, da gibt es ganz viel Dokumentation und da gibt es ganz viel Training und so, aber Agile, da muss man halt schon viel mehr seinen Weg finden, gerade auf den höheren Ebenen.
Und ich kenne jemanden, der gute Trainings gibt, also falls das...
Ja. Wobei in den Standardtrainings reden wir auch zum großen Teil nur über die Standardsachen und da oben wird die Luft halt dünn, ja, mit dem Pre-Pipe und Post-Pipe und redet halt mal miteinander und so, ja. Mhm. So im Hintergrund wird da schon einiges erarbeitet, aber ist eben in der Form noch nicht in den Standard eingeflossen. Also von daher, jeder, der so in dem Solution-Train-Kontext unterwegs ist und dann neue Konzepte entwickelt, da sind die Chancen nicht schlecht, dass das dann auch wieder in den Standard einfließt. Ja, also wenn ihr da richtig coole Sachen... Ne?
Vielleicht kann der Felix ja mal mit dem Dean sprechen, dass das MAF dann auch einzuführen, dass es zementiert wird.
Ja, das ist wirklich einfach schwierig. Ne? Und das Schlimme daran ist, es führt einfach so sehr zu Delays, dass solange wir noch keine Produktivumgebung haben, ist das nicht das Problem. Aber wenn wir dann wirklich mal produktiv sind und du möchtest irgendwelche Dinge schnell umsetzen und diese ganzen Handovers zwischen Solution Management und Product Management und auch zwischen den Teams und das kannst du dann irgendwann nicht mehr durchhalten, glaube ich. Ne? Mhm. Und da müssen wir, glaube ich, das Schneiden noch ein bisschen besser lernen.
Ja. Wenn du jetzt heute neu starten würdest, was würdest du anders machen? Ja, sagst du, wir haben hier ein Problem, da müssen wir jetzt irgendwie ein Produkt entwickeln, eine Lösung entwickeln. Wir haben ja auch die coolen Entwickler, die das machen können und die Produktmanager, die sozusagen den Markt verstehen und so weiter. Was würdest du anders machen, wenn du jetzt wirklich alles gestalten könntest?
Ja, das ist natürlich eine etwas unfaire Frage. Ich war ja am Anfang nicht dabei, aber ich glaube, dass so der Gesamtschnitt und die Entstehung, wie wir es treiben, dass wir nicht von klein größer werden, so wie Safe ja vorschlägt, sage ich mal. Ich glaube, da würde ich eher hingehen, dass wir mit einem kleinen Art anfangen und dann organisch wachsen. Und wir haben es eigentlich umgekehrt gemacht. Wir haben gedacht, wir hätten die richtigen Value Streams definiert. Ob das jetzt so ist oder nicht, lassen wir mal dahingestellt. Und haben dann die Teams und darunter aufgebaut. Und ich glaube, der umgekehrte Ansatz, so wie Safe es vorschlägt, ist schon der sinnvollere. Ne? Jetzt haben wir halt, wie das immer so ist in großen Firmen, auch einen gewissen Zeitdruck und das Management will auch überzeugt werden. Die Schwierigkeiten sind ja überall gleich, denke ich. Ein Kollege sagt immer, same shit, different depth. Und das habe ich ja auf dem RTE-Summit auch ungefähr gehört. Ich weiß nicht, ob es überhaupt einen anderen Weg gibt, wenn man schon so ein großes Unternehmen ist und eine große Legacy hat und eine lange Vergangenheit hat. Mhm. Das ist echt schwer zu sagen, ob es besser gewesen wäre, das anders zu machen. Ne?
Ja.
Ich fand hier ein Zitat von Arne sehr schön, deswegen würde ich es dir gerne einfach so vorlesen. Du hast es ja bestimmt auch gelesen. The improvement line chart looks like sell in May, then go away. A common trader wisdom.
Ja, das ist sehr schön. Es war natürlich der Tatsache geschuldet, dass wir sowohl auf Solution-Ebene als auch auf Art-Ebene so viele Änderungen hatten im März und damit so eine große Unsicherheit in den Teams entstanden ist und so viele Lücken sich auf einmal aufgetan haben, wo wir gesagt haben, hey Leute, beziffert die, benennt sie in Improvements und lasst uns diese Improvements abarbeiten und sicherstellen, dass wir am Ende des PI all eure Fragen, soweit es eben geht, geklärt haben. Ne? Wir hatten für die Vorbereitung dieser Umstellung auf Mixteams auch nur extrem wenig Zeit. Das war irgendwie 3 Wochen vorm PIP, zu dem das dann aktiv werden sollte. Davon war ich noch eine Woche, musste ich ein Training geben, sprich noch eine halbe Woche mich vorbereiten. Und dazwischen ist das alles passiert. Das heißt, wir konnten vorher gar nicht alle Fragen klären, ne? Weil die Not wirklich so groß war und sich da eine große Lücke in anderen Arts aufgetan hat, die wir irgendwie stopfen mussten, wo wir dann gesagt haben, wir beteiligen uns daran mit einem Team oder mit der Größe eines Teams. Ne? Und das spiegelt das halt wieder. Was so cool daran ist, ist eigentlich, dass sie es wirklich geschafft haben, die alle abzuarbeiten. Ne? Und dass es dann dazu geführt hat, dass 2 Pips später alle gesagt haben, ey, total geil, was wir da gemacht haben, obwohl sie am Anfang natürlich alle gezweifelt haben und alle in wilder Panik durcheinander gelaufen sind. Mhm. Aber ja, schönes Zitat. Ich wäre da manchmal auch gerne weggelaufen, ja.
Ja.
Okay, dann vielen Dank für deine Ausführungen, für die Beantwortung der Fragen. Auch dir sei natürlich ans Herz gelegt, eine Session in Hopin zu eröffnen, falls noch jemand irgendwie Fragen hat. Aber man kann sich ja untereinander direkt anschreiben. Also ich bin mir sicher, das läuft.
Das ist das eine. Ich bitte wirklich darum, nutzt meinen LinkedIn-Kontakt. Ich beantworte Fragen. Ich habe auch ganz viele Fragen an andere. Und ich habe mit BMW, Swisscom, KLM und so gesprochen auf dem RTE-Summit. Ich weiß, dass die Schwierigkeiten alle gleich sind, auch wenn es immer so aussieht, als wäre es ein Unterschied. Lasst uns gerne da ins Gespräch kommen. Ich brauche Hilfe und jeder andere braucht wahrscheinlich auch Hilfe und die biete ich auch gerne an. Würde mich sehr freuen.
Sau cool.
Jo.
Dann
herzlichen Dank für die Einblicke. Mal
Gern
gucken.
geschehen.
Nächstes Jahr O2.
Oh, ich komme auch gerne wieder. Mal gucken,
oder wir machen mal so einen runden Tisch mit allen
genau.
Telekom.
Ingo, wie schon gesagt, uns wirst du so schnell nicht mehr los. Also insofern, wenn, dann musst du das Unternehmen wechseln.
Ja, schauen wir mal.
Super. Dann alles
Dankeschön.
Gute und vielen Dank für den schönen Abendausklang.
Ja, danke für die Einladung auch.
Danke dir.
Hat mir immer Spaß gemacht.